generally speaking, it is refereed. It is a complete article come in. Sometimes somebody is a bit speculative because maybe they've got to translate it, because we used to also translate these things when they were sent to us by French native speakers. We don't do that now. They have to submit it ready translated. But so they will be speculative and say, I'm working on this area, would you be interested in a submission? And we write back and say, yes, of course. We've never said no on that, absolutely. But generally speaking, people submit a more or less finished piece. And then the third avenue is, of course, the conference papers, which will be around 3,000 words. So they've got to go away and develop it. And we actually have a meeting after the conference where we pick the ones we want. But we've also, because they submit these papers to us ahead of time, we've had time to read them properly. We're a team of 8, and we have our views. And those views on how the paper could be developed is sent back to the person whose piece we want, so that it actually helps them know how to develop the piece forward. So those are the 3 ways we do it. I think actually a submission of a proposal is a good idea. Because what's your domain again? It's comics, yes. Yes, I think that would, in a sense, it depends on the area, doesn't it? But I can well imagine that would require something more intensive on the part of the originator of the text, so that he or she would want to know whether you'd be interested. I think that makes sense.
I think our feeling from very done one issue, so it's very limited experience.
Yeah.
But the ones who sent us completed articles, we very much got the vibe they've been translated and put elsewhere, or something
yes.
like that, and that's
yes.
what we were quite wary of.
Yes.
And I do think we also keep on very
yeah.
strong theory focus, so abstracts are quite useful for us.
Yes.
But our editorial team is very much split down the middle.
No, I think your instinct is right.
Okay.
I think your instinct is right. We tend to get three types of submitters. We get people who have been encouraged, who are doctoral students, and we want them to submit, who have been encouraged by their thesis supervisor to submit. And sometimes it really works, and sometimes it's so obviously just cut from a chapter and it doesn't work. And we write back and say, if you can reformulate it more into an article, then yes, we'll have a look at it. But at the moment it stands as too much as a piece from your PhD thesis. Then we get the established academic whose work we know quite well. We know what area they're working in, and it may be a preliminary piece to a book. And they may even tell us, this is to set out my stall, and I will eventually be incorporating it into the book. Will SFC mind? And we say no, as long as you credit us with this publication. So that's the second type. And then newer people on the block who are, maybe trying to get their 4 articles in the old days for the RAE, who may already have 1 or 2 publications out there, which will check those out alongside what they submitted to us. But your domain is much, French film studies and Francophone film studies is a very small field in comparison to, say, yours. I think yours is a much bigger field. So we might know, between us, we probably know everybody. Slightly incestuous, really, but let's get some new people in, by all means. But yours is very wide. So I think your instinct, instinct is always the best one to follow. And I would say, yes, send abstracts. And then that's when your reviewer should be helpful, your referee and they need to be knowledgeable enough to know that this is something that's gone around the circuit, or they've been at a conference and seen this person give this paper 20 times. And Google, well, obviously you would Google, the profile of the person if you don't know them. Yeah. You have to, because you've got to be serious. You want your work to be serious, especially if you're grounding it in a more theoretical framework. You've got to gain the reputation, and that takes work.
There's just a slight fear that it's very different writing a good abstract than it is writing a good article. You've always got that fear that it's slip through the net just because they haven't written a very good abstract or whatever.
Yes.
I think that's one of the risks, because you get swamped with abstract, for example, for conference. That A, means you have a lot of work to do, and B, there's no guarantee that a good abstract has been translated into a good paper? How many times have you seen that somebody's written a really, strong abstract, but the paper's rubbish, or the other way around?
Yeah.
Somebody might just, draft up a very quick abstract because they've seen it last minute, and it gets compiled, but would be in a good paper. So the only way really is to, have people like asking if, coming to Poland and say, would that be of interest to you, and then it's a nice paper.
Yes, I mean, yeah. On the conference front, we did this. We wanted to change the conference format from somebody coming in blah 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 blah. Oh God! Blah, 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 blah. We thought no, we don't want to do that. So what we did, we said we've selected your abstract. You now have to send us a 3,000 word article, essay, whatever, paper, and that has to get to us a month before the conference. Gets sent out to all the delegates who are coming, so they pre-read the stuff. And we have a discussion, so the person only presents in 5 minutes the ideas of the paper, and then it opens up into discussion because everybody's read the stuff beforehand. And of course, because we've read them beforehand, we've got a very good idea of the quality of the work. I mean, sometimes we know we've got a dozo in there, and we think, oh dear, shame we chose that person. It looks so good in the abstract. So at the conference level, we know what's going to be, we know what's good and what's not good. So good, or what's lazy. It's usually lazy. I don't want good and not good. It's not a very nice way to talk about people's work. So we know we've read, and we know we're going to put those aside, the ones that aren't strong enough. But how many submissions do you get?
Well, quite a lot. Actually.
Yes, I imagine you would. It's a big.
Not very many journals, right?
Yeah.
We've got a new one, obviously.
Yeah.
Very soon. But these. I mean, I've got quite a lot. I'm thinking, 30, 40 for the first couple.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's very running so quick.
Yeah. No, it means you've got the right market. Really, you have to. I think you need. I mean, I'm sure you have got a very strong editorial board, and I think you need to use them first. If you do slightly differently from us, use your editorial board to make decisions whether this is worth going out to referee. I would with that many, because I couldn't have managed that with Phil. For each, I would say that in a year, the maximum that we got in the early days, because that's what you're in, I would have thought maybe 25 or so submissions, out of which we would then get 18. This is when we very first started. Now we get more, of course, but with more of us to manage it. So you need somebody to do the tree before you actually send out to referees. And that's where your editorial board has to work. But you've obviously hit a very, very good mark. Yeah. And it might not.